Calling all units. We have 211 at 454 South Main. Backup needed.
13 meters, you should see it. 13 meters, you should see it.
Titanic was called the Ship of Dreams. And it was. It really was.
To make each day count.
Oh, come on! No, Jack! No! Wait, Jack! No, Jack, I couldn't possibly, Jack.
The others were gracious and curious about the man who saved my life.
Hello, Jack.
Why did they always put someone else at dinner like a damn?
I changed my mind.
Do you trust me? All right, open your eyes.
She's flying! Jack! When this ship docks, I'm getting off with you.
Pick up, you bastards!
Our film begins with a submarine exploration trip to the wreckage of the Titanic at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The submarines were searching for it at the bottom of the ocean, according to the new coordinates they had until they actually reached it. Of course, they were amazed by its huge size and beauty, even at the bottom of the ocean. So they began recording a video of their arrival and exploration. We know that the Titanic sank on April 15, 1912, at exactly 2:30 a.m., meaning 111 years ago from the date of this summary being published on the channel. Of course, the entire body of the ship was corroded by the salts and water pressure, and also the bacteria, but despite that, it was still preserving its external cultures and had not changed or anything happened to it. Here, the submarines descended to the front of the ship to begin the exploration process from the inside, and the explorers were launched from the two submarines. And indeed, the ship was explored from the inside, which was still in its same condition. From the inside, and also some of the passengers' belongings were still in their place here. And when they entered one of the sleeping compartments, which was of course placed inside, they found a safe inside this compartment. And of course they could not believe themselves because they found the thing they had been looking for more than 80 years. Indeed, they extracted the safe from the ship and brought it up to the ship. Theirs and the celebration started before they even opened it. And when they brought the rocket and opened it from the back, they found that it was full of mud and paper that had melted together. And a folder like that had also melted with them, but the main thing they were looking for, they did not find. Of course, Brooke was very annoyed because he was sure that the heart of the ocean was in this safe, since it was the most valuable jewel that was on the ship at the time, but the expert was cleaning the folder that they found inside the safe, and the paper inside it, they found a single picture drawn on this paper. And what was more striking was that it was wearing the same jewel that they were looking for. And on the other side in Wisconsin, there were 6 elderly women sitting and having fun. She herself is doing a search. She heard on TV a marine explorer talking about the Titanic and his exploration of it. Among his discoveries was a picture drawn 84 years ago, and it is still in its 60s. Of course, as soon as she saw it on TV, she was amazed, and her memories went back 84 years. At that moment, Brooke was still preparing to dive again to search for the lost necklace. They received a word from a woman named Rose Calfred. She asked him if he found the heart of the ocean or not.
The woman in the picture.
Here
is
we
me.
discover that she is the same one who owns the picture that he found in the safe and showed it on TV. Of course, she really is Georgie. He was suspicious of Nan in the morning. She does this to become a trend on TikTok. Rose is supposed to have died on the Titanic when she was 17 years old, according to the death records. If we even assume that she is alive, she would be 101 years old, and there is no living survivor of the Titanic. This number is closed now. But Brooke was convinced that she is not lying, and that she is the real Rose, because everyone who knows about the Heart of the Ocean necklace died. However, she knows, and she also told them her name, which is the Heart of the Ocean, so she is definitely not lying. Rose arrives with her bag, and they receive her and prepare a special cabin for her. After she settled in the cabin, she asked Brooke to see her drawing. The one who found it, and as soon as she saw the drawing in front of her, began to recall memories of the person who drew it, and she also saw some of the things he found in her sink, which she was very happy to see, especially since it was still in good condition. Here she began to really, George, explain how the Titanic sank. What happened in brief was that the front side of the ship on the right side hit the iceberg, which made a scoop in the side of the ship from below, and the water began to fill the ship from below to above in the forward half of the ship. And this is what made the ship rise from behind and begin to sink from the front. And of course, because the body of the ship, because of its weight, it was very heavy, so it remained suspended in the air, and also the ship's pillars could not support it. So it split into two halves. The front half sank first, of course, because it was already full of water at the beginning. As for the other half, it remained floating on the water for a while, and then it began to sink gradually. All of this happened exactly 2 hours and 40 minutes after hitting the iceberg. Rose got up and sat watching the video of the expedition's photograph of the ship from below. And she began to tell them in detail what happened on that day, from the moment they went up to the ship until it sank. Titanic was in the year 1912, a dream ship for anyone, a very huge ship to the point that the passengers took their high-class cars together, and Rose arrived with Caledon's fiancé, who invited her and Mumtaz on a unique trip on board the giant ship, the Titanic, the unsinkable ship. As he said, even God Almighty cannot sink it. God forbid. Of course, at that moment, Jack and Fabrizio were playing poker with two people who did not have any money to bet with. They did not find with them only 2 hands for the Titanic, so they played on him. Of course, Jack was a professional poker player who won the 2 hands from them easily. As for the other 2 who lost, he got down and beat each other because they missed an opportunity that would not come back like this opportunity. At that moment, the ship was 5 minutes and it will move. So they ran quickly to it and reached the last door before it stopped. Here, the ship began to move, and the passengers said goodbye to their loved ones before the ship left the port. Of course, Jack and Fabrizio did not have anyone to say goodbye to, but they lived the role with them, meaning that no one would notice. After they said goodbye to the people they did not know, they went to their leaders in the 3rd class, which was originally shared, of course, with 2 other people. As for the 1st class, the servants were arranging the royal suite, and Rose was preparing her paintings to feel comfortable psychologically during her time on the ship. There was a woman named Margaret Brown who was late for the ship's time, so she took a ship, another one at the expense of her husband James, and went after the Titanic until she reached it and boarded it. And Mama Rose, by the way, was called the Nema Constable because her husband had found a gold mine months ago and thus became rich and monitored it and joined the list of prisoners. And in this modern way, the Titanic was actually in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and there was nothing in front of them or even behind him. And here the Captain Edward Smith appears and tells his assistant Murdoch to go at maximum speed. And indeed, he gave an order to raise the engines that were fully working at maximum speed. And I want you to just imagine with me that this is the ship's engine room. So imagine the ship itself, its size. Jack and Fabrizio were, of course, very impressed. From the view of the ship as it cuts through the water, and they watch the dolphins that jump in front of the ship as it walks, and the shape of the ship from above in the middle of the ocean was something very luxurious and majestic beyond description. The faces of the ship in the Royal Suite Andrews, the designer of the ship,
largest moving object ever made by the hand of man in all history.
Caledon, Rose, her mother, and Margaret, and they were talking about the ship, and that her idea was to build a giant ship with all the means of entertainment, as if it were a moving city in the ocean, and the most important, of course, of this is that it would not be able to be swept away in any way. Here, Margaret asked him if it would be named Titanic. Of course, like all of us. We know that the one who named it Titanic was Bruce Ismay, the director of White Star, the company that built the Titanic, and he named it with this name because it expresses the absolute enormity, the stability, the edge, and the challenge of the ocean and the creator of the ocean as well. God forbid, of course. Of course, as we said, it was not a love of the journey, nor a love of their talk, nor a love of her fiancé, nor her death, nor a love of me personally, so I left them to talk to each other inside, and they came out. At that moment, Avery Jack was drawing the passengers of the ship, and he was a very skilled artist, and of course, he was on the lower deck where the dogs of the rich would go down to urinate on him, and here he met Tommy Ryan, his new friend. And at the same moment he met In It Tommy, sees Ross standing over Tommy. He said to them, "Of course, the possibility of you becoming the President of America is much closer than the possibility of you talking to him." But of course, Jack wasn't listening to him or paying attention to him and didn't take his eyes off him. This is the moment when any contact occurs between them. This was, of course, before Khaldun came to take her back inside. After she went back inside, she started telling us about life in the royal palace, which consisted of permanent parties that weren't much different from the parties held in the courtyard, which no one cared about or even considered their existence. She suffocated from the life that was written for her, which became her entire life. And she decided to jump at that moment. Jack was dusting himself and enjoying the view of the sky over the ocean. And suddenly he saw Ross running and wailing after her at the stern of the ship, and she actually went up to the ship's rail and went back outside as well and was about to jump, when he found Jack coming from behind her and telling her not to jump, and he also tried to convince her to go inside. She told him to stay away from her and not to come near her because she was really going to jump. He took his last drag on the cigarette before throwing it, because the price of cigarettes had increased, and he told her with confidence that she wasn't going to jump, because quite simply, if she was going to jump, she would have jumped from the moon. She told him that he distracted her and she wasn't focused, and she told him to move away so she could jump. He told her, unfortunately, that was not possible. "I have now become a part of Eve. If you jump, I have to jump after you to save you." He actually started taking off his clothes and getting ready in case she jumped. He found her telling him that he would fall if he jumped after her, because the water was very deep. He told her, "No, don't worry, I'm a swimmer anyway. All they told me was that the water was very cold, so I would freeze from the cold." Until she got up, she got scared and asked him, "Is it that cold?" He told her, "Of course, it's below zero. The cold itself is what can kill you, not drowning." He told her that once he was on an iceberg trip with his dad and fell into icy water exactly like this one. At that moment, every drop of water around him was like a knife stabbing a bridge. In the end, it's better not to jump because he really doesn't want to experience that feeling again. And he extended his hand to her and told her to come in, and indeed she did. And they got to know each other, and while she was still lifting her legs to come in, her boot got tangled in her dress and Jack fell after her and kept holding her with difficulty while she was screaming. Of course, and she was too heavy for him, and he was not able to pull her. But in the end, he was able to pull her inside at the same moment. The boat started to rise. He arrived at the sound of screaming. And of course, they found him sleeping on top of her and his boot was taken off and she was screaming. Jack grabbed him, of course, and her fiancé was sitting and teasing him. Farouz told him that what happened to him and that she was looking at the whirlwinds in the ocean and fell against his will. And if he had not been there and saved her, she would have died long ago. Now, when they asked him if it really happened, of course, he refused to say that she was committing suicide and said that it really happened. So he released her again as if they were walking. The police said that they would not accept that time was of no use. So he told his assistant, Spicer, to give him $20, but Rose told him, "By God, when do you have this?" He was happy for him and invited him to the nest in the royal suite. And at the same time, he told them about his heroism. We notice here that Spicer was the only one who doubted him and that he found him because it was not in his mind that she fell quickly. Nevertheless, he took his time to take off his clothes and his boots and also to catch her before she fell. And when he slept on top of her and Khaldun, in order to reconcile with Rose, he was supposed to bring him a gift for their engagement party next week. But he decided to give it to her now. The gift was the Heart of the Ocean necklace that King Louis XVI wore, which by the way was also a pure and rare diamond that is not found on planet Earth, which is in very small quantities. He told her that he loved her very much and hoped that she loved him as much as he loved him. The next day, Jack and Rose were walking on the deck of the ship, and he told her that he had been living alone since he was 15 years old because all his family had died. So he wanders around in God's country, and this world hits him a little, and he hits it a little, but the important thing is that we have been walking for 2 hours, and I did not say, "Why did you ask to meet me?" Why? She told him that she wanted to thank him and all that, but not just for saving her, but also so that he wouldn't tease her and what she was going to do. She started to tell him that she must be saying that I am rich and living my life, which will make us think that she deserved it. He said to her, "The opposite is true." I was thinking, how can a beautiful girl like you not be able to get out of her suffering to the point that she thinks that she deserved it? She told him that she did this because of all the people who tried to get her and who didn't love her, and her life that was ending before her eyes, and she didn't know how to change it in any way. He asked her, "Do you love your fiancé?" She told him, "By the way, you are mean and rude. How can you ask me a question like that?" He said to her, "By the way, this is a simple, normal question, so why don't you answer?" She said to him, "No, of course not." "Normal? Because this is a silly question and you and I don't know each other. So of course I won't talk to you about something. Like this, of course." Basila looked. "Who, by the way, the answer is easy from everything you said. This is me telling you yes or no." And she kept saying, "I'm leaving." And she stood in front of him and he coldly said to her, "Okay, I am leaving. Go ahead, walk." So after she walked a little, she turned around and came back and said to him, "By the way, you are the one who is supposed to walk with us because you are standing here on our floor and your place is down," he said to her. "By God who now among us is the one whose words are true." So she looked at him like that and pulled the folder that was in his hand and opened it and found drawings in it, which he drew. She sat flipping through them and she was very impressed by them. She told him that his drawings were really beautiful, so he told her that in Paris he didn't eat with them, so he didn't make a living from them that much, and most of them stayed with him. When she flipped through the rest of the pictures, she found other pictures, but they were naked. So she asked him if these pictures were from his imagination or real people. He told her, "No, of course, real people, because in Paris they are not embarrassed, and they like to be drawn like this. Faces, and they are normal," found Margaret, envious of the blessing coming to him. So they pretended to go for a walk on the ship so that she wouldn't stay with them. But of course she went for a walk with them, and they didn't know how to get rid of him and Bruce. He was talking to the captain about the 2 engines that he hadn't started on the ship yet. He told him that the Titanic was currently traveling at a higher speed than any ship in the ocean. So increasing its speed now wouldn't make much of a difference to any ship. Bruce told him that the press currently knows the size of the Titanic and has talked about it enough, but they still don't know the maximum speed it can reach. Imagine that you wake up in the morning and find that you have reached America, even though you were supposed to arrive in 3 days. Look at how the press on the CBC channels, like Ahmed Musa, will tarnish you. In the end, all of this is in your interest and your history, and anyone who drives the Titanic after you won't reach this speed. Jack was telling Ross about his adventures and the countries he visited. Ross was of course very happy with his life and wanted to be like him and go anywhere at any time and do what she wanted whenever she wanted. She told him that she wanted to imagine that she was with him on the same sidewalk where he paints and sells his paintings. He said, "Yeah, no." And Lynn imagined when we could actually go and do everything I told you about and more. And I would also teach you how to ride a horse like a cowboy and chew tobacco like them and also spit like them. She told him, "Oh, what is this? What is this spit?" "No, of course not. I didn't learn that way." He said, "No, spit." "Well, come on, come on." He held a piece of tobacco and started teaching her how to spit like a cowboy after she chewed. Tobacco was not strong in its teachings, meaning a scene at the height of phlegm, not Titanic. And this is the moment when her mother and her friends saw them doing this. Farouz was embarrassed, of course, and introduced Jack to him. And of course, they were all happy with him because he saved her, unlike her mother, who was the only one who saw an insect that had to be gotten rid of as soon as possible. At that moment, dinner was canceled because Farouz walked with her mother and her friends. As for Margaret, she looked at him like this and asked him, "Do you intend to go to dinner dressed like this or what?" He said to her, "Of course, yes, and it's normal." She said to him, "No, of course not. I mean, I'll let you go in on them like this." She took him with her to her room and dressed him in a suit from her son's. He was very perfect, and Jack entered the prisoner's plate and was very impressed by this part of the ship, which was literally as if it was a palace inside the ship, and he stood next to their leader and tried to imitate them until he saw Kaladin coming down. Of course he went to greet him. But Kaladin passed in front of him and he did not see him, and Jack felt here that it was a call he did not answer. At that moment, Rose came down from above behind Kaladin, and the two of them looked at each other. As soon as she came down, she reached him, but her hands like they do in the movies. And Ankia took his hand and raised his head to the sky and walked. And as soon as the dinner party started, Mama Rose wanted to embarrass him in front of the prisoner's lair and asked him about his luxurious cat if he was comfortable with it or not. No, he told her that he was very comfortable in it, to the point that it turned out that there was no fronds in it, as he expected. Everyone laughed, of course, at his words, and Kaladin told them that he joined us from the third-class passengers because he had made their fiancé cold. As soon as the food began to be placed in front of him, he found many forks, knives, and spoons in front of him, and among them was not even the type of spoons that he knew. He asked Margaret, "What are all these spoons? Are they supposed to be distributed, or are they all yours?" She told him, "No, of course they are all yours, and with every meal that will be brought down, will you start with the spoons from the outside to the inside, or will you shoot at anything?" He looked at me, and of course, Mama Rose continued her silly questions, which were of the type, "Where did you get the money for the spoons from?" He told her that he was currently on the Titanic, and when he got off the Titanic, it would be from the same place he got off from. As for the chance, he won it in a game of poker 5 minutes before the ship moved. Of course, if you noticed, they were all sitting enjoying his words because it was something new and a new kind of thing among them. As for Mama Rose, of course, her goal was very clear from the beginning with her questions. But Jack was smart and turned the tide on her and told her that the best thing in his life is that when he wakes up, he doesn't know what his day will look like. For example, yesterday I was sleeping under a glass of water on the Axis side. Today I'm riding on the biggest ship in the world, and also, I was drinking champagne with the people and the elite. Because every day was a new day for me with different events that I myself knew about. After eating, as usual, the men got up to smoke and talk about politics and economics away from the free people. But Jack, of course, did not go with them and told them that he was going because he wanted to sleep instead. Before Rose left, he gave her a piece of paper without Mama seeing it. And the paper said that she should meet him at the hour. And when she met him at the time, he asked her if she was ready for the real party. Here, Jack takes her to a third-class party with cheap beer, where everyone was dancing, having fun, and being happy. And the one who falls on the ground doesn't move at all. He continues normally, and neither of them is paying attention to the other. Of course, she was much happier and happier than at the party they were at. If you consider it a party at all, I merged with them in the head and the challenges as well, and I defeated them in more than one challenge. Here, Spicer goes down and sees her with Jack. But of course they were busy with their heads and their wealth, so they didn't see him. The next day, she was sitting with Caldum having breakfast in the royal suite. He asked her if she had enjoyed being downstairs with the third-class passengers yesterday. Of course I knew that her guard, Spicer, was the one who followed her and informed him. And when he told her not to do what she did again, she told him, "I am not obligated to listen to you, and I am free to do whatever I want." He got angry at her and said to her, "You are engaged, and one day you will become my illness. So don't walk around with your hair down and tell me you're free. Your name is supposed to be linked to mine one day." Ross was afraid of him and his nervousness, so she said to him, "Okay, I'll do whatever you want." When she went inside to dress her mother, she warned her not to meet that boy again. Her passport from Caledon must be completed as soon as possible because her father left and wants to leave on the same day. If you demand, all our possessions will be tracked, and we will be crushed. When she told her that she did not love Caledon and did not want to marry him, she told her that we are women and our options for survival are limited. She is not like men, she can choose what she wants at any time. When they went down, Jack came to see her. The guards, of course, prevented him from entering, and Spicer saw him standing there. He looked at him and said, "Mr. Caledon is very grateful for what you did. But your role is over here and we don't want to see you again." He came out and brought him $20 and gave them to him so he could leave. He told him that he didn't want any money from him or anything. He just wants to talk to Russ for 1 second. What are the guards saying now? There is a mountain in their way. Of course, everyone standing there was worried, but the captain told them not to worry because the iceberg naturally forms in the winter in the middle of the ocean. He also told them to increase the speed and turn on the last 2 engines. I mean, if there is even a mountain in their way, they will cross it anyway. Ross said the number of lifeboats on the ship was very small compared to the number of passengers. This is because the boats in front of it can only carry half of the passengers on the ship. Andrews told her that they were just decoration, but because of the shape of the ship and the government. "Don't worry, I will build you a ship, which is the only lifeboat you will need in the middle of the ocean." And Caledon, as usual, came in and said that they were making a big deal out of nothing. It would have been better, and the place would have been more spacious if they weren't there. As for the jacket, it is of course not measurable. He climbed to the top floor and stole a taya and a mutarif belonging to Sari from the prisoners who were standing above. The circle was next to them until they passed in front of him, and a Rose puller stood up and entered the court next to him. Rose told him that she couldn't see him again because she was engaged to Caledon and that what they were doing was wrong. He told her that his popularity made him know how the world works. He knows that the duck is not yours, Marzouk, and he watched the movie Salami and cried 100 times. But he loves her anyway, and he won't leave her in this trap until she's freed from it, and he's sure she's okay. She sat down and told him that saving her was not his mission, and that he should not contact her again in any way. When she came in and sat with them, she saw that the life she was living was really fake. Especially when she saw a little girl whose mother made her sit like a lady, even though she wanted to sit comfortably. She saw herself in this little girl, and that she would grow up to be exactly like them. So she went out and went to Jack and told him that she changed her mind. And while she was still talking, Ume kept quiet and closed her eyes. He took her by the hand and led her up the stairs while she was blindfolded, and she did not know where he had taken her. At that moment, he told her to spread her hand and open her eyes. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw herself as if she was flying over the ocean. This is the place where Ross kissed Jack for the first time. It was the last day Titan discovered sunlight. Of course, she really was, George. Very upset with Captain Smith, because he had the eyes of an iceberg in his hand. However, the ship was operating at top speed and did not even think about slowing down. even if 3 hands were tied. This is of course because he believes that his 22 years of experience will enable him to easily avoid anything that comes his way. After a while, Ross took Jack on her way to show him his paintings. The paintings too, so she went and opened the safe and took out the Heart of the Ocean chain and showed it to him. She asked him to draw her while she was wearing it, and he said, okay. She told him, I mean her clothes, that's all. Of course, Jack was shocked by her request, but he had drawn it and he was very professional, so he agreed to draw it. He pulled the dog that was going to sleep on it and fixed it. He prepared the equipment for the drawing he would draw with. When she got ready and went out, she gave him 10 years to check the drawing and told him that this drawing was better than any other drawing he had ever drawn in his life. He started drawing it, and he actually drew it better than any other drawing he had ever drawn in his life. Of course, she was telling him the same thing as I am telling you, and he was sitting in front of her, completely covered up, just as you are covered up now. Yes, don't deny that you are covered up now. Even she really was, George, really convinced that she wasn't lying. To realize that it has perfection, she told him, unfortunately, it really is true. George Jack was very professional. And indeed, after he finished the drawing, he was very respectful and did not do anything. After he signed the drawing for her, he gave it to her so that she would be proud of it. I gave him the necklace to put in the safe again, and of course the safe was full of money. And here the captain's assistant was standing next to him telling him that the ocean was very calm. This is usually a good thing, but now it won't be good at all. This is because it will be difficult for them to see the iceberg, as there are no waves hitting it, so it will be visible from afar. He suggested to the captain that they slow down the ship a little so that if anything suddenly appeared, they would know how to avoid it. As for the captain, they said that he would go to sleep for a while and improve his speed and course, just like them. This is of course because he is arrogant and wants to arrive quickly, and the whole page will be talking about him. You will talk, brother, don't worry. Of course, at that moment, Deros was dressed and Jack was waiting for her outside. Suddenly the door was knocked on and Spicer came in. She ran inside and I went out the back door. When he went out after them and saw them, they ran away from him, and of course they ran after him. Of course, for her, this was an adventure she had never experienced before, and she was happy while running away from him. Of course, Spicer was behind them and did not leave them alone, until they found a broken door and went in through it. When they went down from that door, they found themselves in the Bukhari rooms. They ran inside and the workers were surprised by their presence because the place was dangerous. But they kept running until they reached the door again. When they opened the door and entered, they found that the ship's warehouse contained all the passengers' belongings. Among them was a very luxurious car. Honestly, I wish I had one like it. Jack opened the door behind her like a prostitute. He sat in front of him and asked him, "Where are you going, mademoiselle?" He pulled her over to the sofa behind him. Kaladin opened the safe to see if anything had been stolen from it. He found everything as it was, but he saw the picture that Rose had drawn for him. I got really mad, of course, when I realized that he was going to cut it. But he looked at Spicer and said, "I have a much better idea." At that time, Spicer had sent servants down to look for her so that she wouldn't get dirty from the test. When they arrived at the car, they saw her hands on the glass from the inside, but of course, when they opened the car, they didn't find them. At that moment, they both went out onto the ship. Rose told him, "When we arrive in New York, I will run away with you, and I will not leave you or come back to them again." He told her, "What you are saying is crazy." She told him that she knew he was crazy and that she wanted to go crazy with him. Of course, the people on board were sitting and bored. Suddenly, they saw a movie in which we were working in front of them, so they entertained themselves with it. But they did not know that the ship was literally headed for disaster. And also because of him. Because suddenly, after watching them for a while, they started looking at each other. They looked again and found an iceberg in their faces. He was very close to them too. They immediately struck the bell and began to change the direction of the thrust to turn the ship to the right. The ship is moving north and avoiding the mountain, and of course, the engines are in reverse. He locked all the coal furnaces to suffocate the ship and quickly stopped its engines. Once all the engines were stopped, they turned on all the reverse thrusters to help the ship rotate faster. Of course, the mountain was approaching in front of them, and the ship still did not respond, even though the reverse engines were working. But in the end, of course, a short distance before it reached the mountain, it responded and actually began to turn. But it hit the edge of the mountain from below and fell short and went back through it. Of course, all the passengers felt the tremor, especially Jaco Rose. Everyone was sure that they heard the sound of the collision, and Andros himself felt the tremor while he was sitting in his room. What they did not know was that the ship was already broken and water was starting to leak inside. And the same Galadian mountain they saw before their eyes while they were on the ship. Of course, the belongings room started to tempt you first, and then all the steam engine rooms. As soon as Murdoch found out, he locked all the iron doors in the engine room so that the water wouldn't leak into the rest of the ship. Whoever knows how to escape from them before the door closes knows. And whoever doesn't know, of course, gets trapped inside with the water. And the two of them were very surprised by the sound. So he asked them what happened, and they told him what happened and what they did. He ordered all engines to be stopped and ordered Andros to be brought in to assess the damage. Of course, down on the 3rd floor, when they got up, they found the whole place flooded with water. So they saw the baker running away and walking behind them, because the oven must be running away from the water, just like them. As for the Maliki dish, the servants reassured them that everything was fine. This tremor was caused by a broken engine blade, so I sent someone to install it, and he will complete it. It was a car tire that exploded, you idiot, what you are saying. No, I believed him too. And at the moment when they were playing with the ice on the ship, and Jack and Ross were going upstairs, they heard Captain Samus and Andrews saying that water had actually entered the ship from the front. And it was clear, from what they were saying, that the matter was dangerous and not easy. They quickly went upstairs to warn her mother and Kaladin. Before that, Kaladin had told one of the servants that he had been robbed and to call the ship's police immediately. When the police arrived and inspected the place, they found Jack and Ross entering together. Spicer put the jack chain in his pocket while he was inside without noticing. As soon as they entered the room, he told him that the police were searching. Of course, Jack left them alone and didn't know why they were searching for him. But of course, after they searched his coat for the chain, Rose couldn't believe he had stolen it. But Kaladin told her that he was a professional thief and knew how to play with you well in order to steal the chain, when she pushed him away and told him that she was with him for a while. He said to her, "My dear, he must have deceived you while you were wearing it inside after he drew you naked." Jack told Rose that he was definitely the one who put it in his pocket so they could frame him, and he found Spicer saying that even this wasn't his pocket. His tears were in the Rice and family's private account, and he reported the theft of him and the ship today, so they pulled him out because he really claimed that he was the one who stole all of this. And Jack's only concern was that Rose believed him that he didn't play with her like he said. Down in the conference room, we know that the water entered from the front of the ship and rose 14 meters in just 10 minutes, meaning that 5 chambers of the ship were swayed by the water, and it was designed to be able to continue its journey if only 4 were full. But 5 chambers are impossible, and if it moved from its place now, it would sink immediately, and currently it is swaying from front to back. There is nothing they can do, and the water will keep flowing from deck to deck, from front to back, until the entire ship sinks. So, the two captains suggested that we operate the water repellent pumps and wait normally until it subsides a little, but of course, these pumps will only provide them with flour, because the speed of water entering is currently much faster than water exiting. Therefore, there is nothing they can do to prevent the Titanic from sinking. Bruce looked at them and said to them, "Yes, the Titanic will not sink. It is an unsinkable ship." Andrews told him, "I am the one who designed it, and I assure you that within an hour, the entire Titanic will be at the bottom." The ocean and in the dock. Caledon hit Ross with a pen, of course because of what he was doing, and suddenly the servants entered and told him to put on the life jacket and go up to the deck of the ship immediately. Unlike, of course, the third class who were hitting them and throwing the life jackets in the mouths for them to put him on. And here the captain said to make the telegraph to send the ship's coordinates to any responder that they were sinking, and needed the workers' help. Of course he was surprised because the Titanic was not supposed to sink even if anything happened. But the captain confirmed that he would send it continuously to anyone who would receive it. And they also began to prepare the lifeboats that... Of course it was less than the number of passengers, as he knew. And when Andrews entered, they were sitting normally, as if nothing was happening, and the waiters were walking normally, and the orchestra was also playing, as if the ship was sinking. Here, Rose told Andrews that she saw the iceberg and saw the look in his eyes. So she wished he would tell her the truth and not lie to her. He told her that the ship was indeed sinking, and in exactly 1 hour, it would be at the bottom of the ocean, like Caledon. Of course, he agreed, and did not hear what he heard. But Andrews told him to tell whoever you can, so he can control himself, because he does not want to cause misfortune for everyone. Rose looked at him, and he said to her, "You remember well what you asked us about on the boats and knew the answer, so as soon as the boats go down, get on them quickly and don't wait for anything." As for the police, of course, he was driving on Jack like a bishop watching the column inside the dock, and suddenly he finds his assistant coming and saying that the captain wants him up urgently. So Spicer told him to go up and not to scare him. He should be careful of this criminal. Here, the telegraph operator informed the captain that the Carpathia ship was heading towards them at top speed, but unfortunately they had 4 hours to arrive and no one else responded to the distress call. When the lifeboats were finally ready to go down from the ship, the captain gave the order to his assistant to go down. The women and children were the first, and as the women and children began to be loaded into the boats, the orchestra came out onto the ship's hull and began to play music to calm the flames that might spread at dawn. Of course, the passengers of the third bike were locked under an iron door, and that was the limit. The people were allowed to ride first, and if there were any boats left, they would open them. Indeed, the boats began to bear the strain, and they were getting off one after the other. The ship was already beginning to sink from the front, and Jack was in the dock, seeing the water rising in front of him in the form of water. He found Spicer startled from his place and punched him in the stomach. He said to him, "A letter from Mr. Caledon instead of the $20 you refused to take." He took the key to the handcuffs that were handcuffed to the column, and he left it in the dock and walked. And above the family of all the people were waiting for their turn, and Mama Rose told the officer to put them on in order of classes so that the boat would not be crowded, and the people who were lower than them would not be with them on the same boat. Rose got angry at her and said to her that half of the people on the ship will die, and you said who will ride next to you. Caledon intervened in the conversation and said, "No, but definitely not the better half who will die." She looked at him with contempt and said to him that he is just a bastard and a damned revenge. Ayla provocatively, "Excuse me, let's respond to your drawn image from..." The safe had been empty for a long time tomorrow morning, after the one who drew it died, on the Titanic, and here it was her turn to get on the boat. But of course she didn't get on and ran inside to reduce the water's flow. When Caledon went to catch up with her and said, "No, you want to be that dog's whore," she told him that being his whore is a million times better than being his wife. Of course, Jack's ship was sinking badly from his side, and he was calling on anyone to catch up with him, but the whole floor was empty, of course, and no one was hearing him or his screams. And Andrews was inside, telling them to put on their life jackets, but they weren't convinced or even comprehending that the Titanic was sinking. Suddenly, he found Rose in front of him. He wondered what she was doing here and told her to go and quickly get on a lifeboat like he had told her. She told him that she wouldn't move from here if he came with her and wanted to help her and tell her where the police had stopped him. He described the way to her and told her to save him and bring him back quickly before the boat ran out. Jack was struggling to free himself from the photographer. Suddenly, he found the water starting to pour on him inside the sink. As for Rose, she ran as Andros had described to her and took the elevator down like he had told her. But when the elevator reached the bottom, they found the water had entered it. Of course, the worker was going to be swallowed by it again quickly, but she stopped him and opened the door and got out of it before he could come out. He was telling her to go back again. She didn't agree or leave her and go up, and the whole place down was drowning in water, but her blood was gone and she walked from the workers' corridor that Andros had described to her. Of course, she didn't know which one of them was in trouble, and there was a lot of trouble, so she kept calling for me and Jack. At that moment, went up to the office to get away from the water, and suddenly he heard Razzo calling her, so he called her in a loud voice and kept knocking on the photographer until she arrived. Of course, she apologized to him that she left him while he needed her, so he told her that Spicer was the one who put it in his pocket when they entered. And of course, he took the key with him while he was walking, so he told her to look for a spare key among the hanging keys, but of course, unfortunately, there were none among the keys, the one who was hanging on, not even in the office drawer. At that moment, the front of the ship was already completely sunk, and the water reached her deck, so Jack told her to go look for anyone to help them, and he would be fine, don't worry. Of course, there was no other solution in front of her, so she quickly walked to look for anyone to help. But of course, there was no one on the floors below because they were all flooded with water. And she only found one person, and he was running and didn't even bother to dive with her. What was she saying? And while she was searching, she suddenly saw the emergency axe in front of her. So she broke the glass on it, took it, and returned with it again quickly. But when she returned, the water had completely flooded the plate below, so she got up, her robe, and went down to my position. Jack and asked him, "Is this axe going to be spent?" He told her, "We will know now," and she was still going to hit it on the chain. He told her, "Wait and try there first so you know if it will fire correctly or not." Of course, when she tried, she fired it incorrectly, so he encouraged her. He told her, "Don't be afraid." And they argued with her and that she would be able to hit it correctly. Indeed, she went down on the chain and broke away from his hands. When they came out, they found that the exit was completely filled, and they did not want to get out of it, so they looked for any other exit. The ship was actually in front of them, and it was all in the water, and the lifeboats themselves began to move away from it. It was a real terrifying scene for anyone. Has anyone seen what nature and some stupid people are? They did not want to ride what was theirs with them, and they also had their animals with them. But of course, the police who stopped prevented them from doing this, and called and tells Spicer that time is passing, and they still do not want to ride what children and women do. But he told him that there is someone behind him who is riding on men, but he agrees with the one who is literally dying, and he knows how to agree with him dying and here. Jack and Rose arrived at the door and closed it. They came out of the corridor and died. He said that this man is coming to tell them not to disturb those who do not push through the door. They killed him, and of course this is certain. They entered the exercise above. I think it is the same genes here, Andros Tereb, when he found Wild lowering the boat at half its hours, which are 30 and 35 only. And his explanation was that he was of course afraid that the boat would not indicate this number and drown the wealthy. Andros was angry and told him that he tested it himself, that its hour is 70, which is completely imposed, and he ordered the whole boat to sleep at its full hour. And indeed, Wild was the same, and all the third-class passengers were still locked up and trying to look for any exit. But they did not find one, and the guards outside told them to wait for the first high-class dish to board. And then the junkers like them tried to get out and actually opened the gate on them, but the guards beat them and brought them back. Then Nick pulled out his gun and told them that anyone who tries to get out, again, will be shot dead. Jack and Ross were downstairs and saw everything that was happening, and Tommy and Fabrizio were before them as well. They told them that it is impossible for us to get out of here and we must find another way out. At that moment, Caledon went inside and took the money, the chain, and anything he found from the safe. I had Spicer with me, of course, with his M1911 pistol. As for Jack, Ross, and their friends, they were still looking for any way out in the corridors until they reached another gate. But it was still locked and the guards refused to open it for him. Jack told him to open it, but he refused, so he got angry at him and banged on the gate hard. But it still refused to open, so he went to the sofa. They stuck wood to the ground and started to remove it, except for the limit, so they went in and stayed at the gate, neglecting and all. Of them were crossing. And Tommy, frankly, saw my anger with the box that they gave him. And when they went outside, they all made a scene and made a fuss, and the matter was getting out of control. Amuel took out his gun and told them that anyone who came near or made a scene would be shot. So they all organized again and continued. And when they went back to the one who was training, it turned out that he was actually training a lot of people. And he was standing there making fun of the point that he was filling the boat twice an hour on the basis that the ropes would bear his weight and he would come in and bring you back empty. But of course, the boat lost its weight completely and fell on top of each other, and that's it. Caledon didn't find a solution other than Murdoch, the police deputy, and he told him, "I'm a businessman and I have a better business." He put $10,000 in his pocket and told him, "I think you understand what I want now. Be careful, this is worth $100 million now." When the four of them went up, the entire boat that had been set aside was finished, so they ran to the other side. The orchestra was still playing to calm the situation. Murdoch at that moment had already saved Caledon a place on the boat in the middle of the war. At that moment, Spicer Joe told him that he had found her and that she was on the other side with Jack. He loved her. Even after she insulted him like that, he didn't get on the boat and went after him. Here, Bruce was escaping the opportunity and got on the boat and sat saying, "Oh God, Murdoch, don't let me go." And indeed, Murdoch left him and told the boat to go down. It was the last boat on that side. And of course, like I told you, Wild didn't ride women and children only. And Ross didn't want to ride at all, as long as Jack was with her. So he sat trying to convince her to ride the boat and he would take action. But she still wasn't convinced. And here, Caledon appears and tells her to get on the boat. He told her that Abdallah dressed her up because of the cold and told her that he had arranged it with the police on the other side, and that he would take Jack to ride with her. And indeed, they got her on the boat, and she got off while the two of them were watching from above. Jack asked Caledon, "Isn't there an arrangement with the police behind me?" Caledon told him, "No. Of course there is an arrangement, but you are not one of them." Here, when Ross looked into his eyes, she knew that there was really no arrangement with the adjustment or anything, and that he would really sink with the Titanic. Or did he jump from the lifeboat in front of her, and Jack shouted at her not to get down? But she had already gotten down, and she ran to him, and he ran to her and met her in the Royal Hall. He sat and said to her, "Why did you do this? You're crazy." She told him, "If you jumped, I will jump." Why did he promise to you? Caldron, of course, saw them both in that state. Or did he pull out Spicer's gun and run to Jack to kill him? But Jack spotted him, so he ran away from him quickly, along with Rose. He was behind him, but his gun was finished after he ran after them for a while, and they were far away. About him, he came back again and sat laughing erratically. So Spicer asked him who was laughing now. He said to him that the funny thing is that he put the jewel in the coat that he wore here. Jack and Rose ran to the dining hall and hid from him on the basis that he was behind them. But, of course, there was no one behind them, and the whole place was him and water, a sink, and a chair. That's it, so they looked for another exit until they found a ladder next to them, so they went out of it. But unfortunately, they found an iron door, and it was locked. And to their luck, one of the servants saw them and was going to leave them and go, but they begged him to open it for them and not leave them. And he actually went down to open it for them, even though the water was filling the place quickly, and from his confusion and speed, he fell. The keys were taken from him, so he apologized to them, cursed them, and left before he drowned with them. Jack, of course, did not give up and dived under him and brought the keys from the ground. He tried the keys until one of them finally opened them, and they went into the water until they reached the ladder that would take them up to the ship, which was cold. Murdoch saw that the ship was now in the water, and there were only 2 boats left, and everyone was trying to get on, but he pulled out his gun and said that anyone who came near would be shot. Caledon came to him and said that there was an agreement between us. Or did they throw the agreement in his face and told him to go back and said that he would kill him? Indeed, as soon as they started approaching him, he killed one of them and killed Tommy. He was also shocked, of course, by what they did. So he went back to Laura and shot himself with bullets in Caledon water. Of course, he did not find any way from that side in the journey of the next side, and on his way he saw a little girl crying next to Wahida, and he passed by with her, and he said to the officer that she has no one in the world but me. So Wahida is passing by, and indeed he and the girl got into the boat. And of course we will not forget Sir Guggenheim and his son, who refused to wear floats, and he prayed that if they drowned, they would drown in the style of a refined day and not like the common people who are the most sensible to see him from afar like this. A nobleman cannot, meaning they did not eat. As for Captain Asmus, he was very shocked by his fate. So he entered his command camera to die in it, and the orchestra band had finished, and put some of them wanted to ride the boats, but the captain wanted to play his last tune before death. And when they heard him, they returned and continued with him until death. Of course, as we know, not all the passengers boarded the boats, and the rest of them remained on the ship. Some of them surrendered to their inevitable fate. Some of them put their children to sleep so they would not feel the drowning, and some of them tried to save their lives by any means. But I don't know, at the moment I'm talking to you, half of the ship from the front was completely submerged in the water, and the water pressure forced the glass on the captain, and with that the captain died. So everyone ran to the half that went behind the ship, which was supposed to not sink yet. In a desperate attempt to escape, the faces of the ship, of course, all those on it drowned, including Sergei Guggenheim and his son, while Jack and Ross ran to the stern of the ship so that they would save as much as possible, and suddenly the ship's vessels began to disintegrate from their place and fall. And Fabrizio, of course, died under one of them, and here the entire ship began to rise from behind, until the propellers and engines began to appear. As for the lifeboats, they were all watching the ship from afar while it was sinking, not believing that the Titanic was actually sinking before their eyes, of course, because all the passengers returned to the stern of the ship. So the load on the ship from behind was very big, much bigger than the one in front, especially since it was raised in the sky and the one in front was completely submerged in the water. The ship could not bear this weight and began to split in half one by one until it was divided in two, and the half behind that was raised up went down to the water again quickly, but because the first half, which is the one in front, was not completely separated from the half behind, it began to pull it under it before it separated from it until it was standing vertically. Suddenly it took a rope in its hand so that it would not fall under like someone who drops it, whether outside or inside the ship, and hung them both in the same place from which it was going to jump. Of course, one by one, it began to fall because, as I told you, the half, this one was standing vertically and not all of them were clinging well like Jack and Rose. But of course, good luck doesn't last, and the other half also started to sink from top to bottom, and of course, there was no escape from a death, and there was nothing else they could take shelter in. As soon as they got close to the water, he told her to take a deep breath and not let go of his hand at all. Indeed, the entire ship went down into the water, and all the passengers were under the water, including Jack and Rose. Because the ocean pilot was very tight underneath them, they moved the two of them away from each other. Rose went up and made a call to Jack, but of course he wasn't around her, and everyone around her was in a state of panic, to the point that one of them was drowning, so he kept hanging on to him so that he wouldn't. Suddenly Jack appeared and hit him and saved her from him and told her to swim with him, and he started swimming until they reached the wooden door like a drop on the water. And of course the water was very cold, so he told her to get out of the wooden door quickly, and she actually got out, and when he tried to get out beside her, the door was going to flip over and drown him, so he went down again and told her to get out and stay on top of him and everyone around them. Some were screaming and some were actually drowning, but he reassured her and told her that the boats would come back, but they were far away because of the money from the sinking of the ship, and the assistant was whistling the whistle for the boats to come back and take anyone. But of course all of them there, none of them wanted to come back, especially the captain of the ship. Margaret got up, started screaming again and telling them, "We won't let them die, we have to go back and save them. But we all know that if they go there, they will all gather on the boat and sink it." And this is of course an instinctive thing because everyone wants to save their life and clings to it. Margaret shouted at them, "How can you let your men there drown like this after they put you in their place? The boats we are on have room for at least 20 people." The captain said, "No, if I don't hold them, there will be 21, not 20. So I found no way to speak, so I sat down and didn't speak again. As for Captain Lewitha, who had 3 lifeboats with him, he told them to curse 2 of them, and to keep one of them go back and rescue whoever he could, and of course most of them. He died from the water, and they were all floating in the ocean, and there was no sound of anyone screaming or anyone trying to escape, and Jack was struggling to survive and reassuring Rose that they were just organizing the boats and they would return for sure. And Rose was literally freezing from the cold at the beginning of saying goodbye to Jack, and he said to him, "And we will say goodbye, and we will live and travel, and we will express everything I told you together." And even if I die, you will continue your life, and you will get married, and you will have many children, and you will die as an old man in your warm room, and not here. And this is after you do everything you want. And Zayad created a threat that no matter what happens, she will try to survive in any way, and that she will never surrender to death, no matter what happens. Of course, Rose was suffering while hearing him say these words, but he refused to leave her until she threatened him first and fulfilled the promise. And indeed, he promised. And at that moment, Louis returned with the boat with the flashlight and was looking for anyone alive in the water. But unfortunately, they were all dead from the water and floated on his face. So he started calling out loudly if anyone could hear him and screaming at those with him in the forts, which was good. But like I told you, there was no use at that moment. Rosa was sleeping by the door, contemplating the sky and singing. And suddenly she saw a boat coming from afar and calling out if anyone was alive, so she was happy and started to wake Jack up and tell him that there was a lifeboat coming ahead, but unfortunately, Jack had fallen in place and he passed away. She was holding onto the door and decided to surrender to death with him. She kept walking, but she failed to keep the promise she had made to him that she would struggle until her last breath. She started calling out to them, but her voice was very weak, and they also moved away from her. She untied Jack from the door, said goodbye to him, and got off him. She turned to the man who was whistling and died. She took the whistle from him and started whistling with it with determination until he heard her and returned to the ship again. Indeed, she was rescued, and 1,500 people of all ages died behind them. After 2 hours, Carbatia arrived, who had made the distress call and saved them all. Of course, each one of them was looking for anyone who had survived from his family, including them. Caledon was looking for Rose, of course, but she was hiding from him and did not show herself to me. This was the last time I saw him. I heard that he got married normally and had children after him, and he also received billions from his father. But the stock market crash in 1929 destroyed all his investments, so he put a gun to his mouth, and it was over. This was only 10 years after he was rescued from the Titanic. Georgie told her that we did not find anything related to Ja. And of course this was logical because he won the tickets of 2 others that were not in his name. And she also did not tell anyone about him until now for the bathrooms. And submarines emerge from the ocean. Of course Brooke was a maid and sad, and the world was dark in his face because the period was 3. For years he didn't think about anything about the Titanic. Every necklace he lost inside him, and it never occurred to him that the end would be like this. The movie is about Maruz, and she is at the back of the ship, and he got off it. What would she do? Is she crazy? Don't ruin the end. Thank God she didn't do it. She stayed normal. And in the end, we discover that the necklace was with her from the beginning, and that she found it at the front when she was rescued without her getting tired. At that moment, she was thrown into the ocean again, with all the memories that happened with the ship. And when she returned to her home again and slept in her lunch, we know from the pictures next to her that she actually did everything in her life and went through many adventures, the same adventures that happened to you. He told her about it, and they were supposed to pass by it, and on that night, Rose dies and dreams that she went to Jack in the ship, and her soul joined his soul with the souls of all those who died there. Very important information that you must know as long as you have reached this point. All the details that happened on this ship are real and actually happened with Jack, Rose, her mother, Caledon, Spicer, Fabrizio, and Tommy. As for the rest of the details, they all happened. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us in continuing to provide content, and activate the bell to receive everything new. Subscribe to our other channels for more fun, and see you soon, God willing, with a new summary of a new movie or a new series in Espresso. Bye.